Okay, I want to talk about dynamic stability. It's kind of a contradiction in turn. Dynamic meaning moving or changing, and stability being stable or remaining in a stasis. So what I mean by that is this. We're going to be moving in a four-directional plane. As I take my step back, I'm moving to this plane, and when I pick my leg up, I want to still continue in moving in this direction, but I don't want to move in this direction because now my body's going to take me outside that target line. So when I pick my leg up, I'm going to be moving this way, but I don't want to be moving this way from first base to third base. So what I want to be able to do is maintain that stability going this way, but still remain dynamic and moving toward my target. So when I pick my leg up, I'm moving home without venturing off my target, off the target line.
The foot touch position is a great position for us to analyze what the body's doing, to check on posture. And a couple of things we want to look at is where's our elbow height, where's our hand in relation to our elbow. It also gives me a good indication of where my stride length is too. Another thing I want to really focus on is what do I land on? You know, there are a lot of pitchers in the major leagues that land on their heels. Different guys land on their toes. Some guys land on the instep. So there are very pitchers that do various things. Now, one of the benefits to landing on their heel is a general rule. People who usually stride out the furthest will land on their heel. They'll be able to create a little bit more momentum, get a little bit closer to the plate when you stride and land on your heel. Pitchers who typically land on their toe have a shorter stride length, which kind of impedes the momentum process. And there's also ones who land on their instep. When they land on their instep, it somewhere falls in between a long stride and a shorter stride, and they really have a good solid base for them to land on. But the things that you really want to pay attention to is, in this position, is to check the body posture. Am I tipped back? Is my elbow up? Is it down? So I want to make sure that I'm in this range from sternum to shoulder height. I want to keep an eye on where my elbow is in relation to my hand, and also it gives me a good indication as what am I landing on and how long my stride length is. So this is a great position for us to analyze. One of the common problems that you're going to see at foot touch position is the hand in relation to the elbow. A lot of things are being taught where the hand is being told to point the ball to second base. One of the problems with that is this. As I start to come home, if I just keep my hand in this position, it's a very unnatural position, a lot of strain right here on my wrist. If I make no move with my wrist and turn to throw, you can see that my fingers stay inside the baseball. Not a very effective pitch if you want to develop power. What invariably happens is as they start to make their turn, they're going to have to make the correction with their wrist to get back to center so they can deliver that power. Unfortunately, if they go a little bit too far, now they get on side of the ball and they create that spiral spin or a cutter or a slider. So effectively, they're trying to throw a fastball, but in reality, throwing a slider. So what you want to do is, when you land at foot touch position, you want to have your fingers on top of the ball. If you look at our major league models, every one of them have their fingers on top of the baseball. When they turn to throw, you can see there's no adjustment in the wrist. Now they're behind it and able to execute a powerful pitch. The second thing that you're going to see is if I tell someone to point the ball to second base, you're going to see that arm automatically reaches out. Now what this does is it creates a long arm lever. Now the problem with the long arm lever is I'm not going to be able to get to that release point very effectively and efficiently. Generally speaking, I'm not going to be able to get there. I'm going to release the ball high, and I'm not going to have near as much power with it. So I'm going to lose both power and control. So if I tell somebody to move the ball to second base, that is a move that a 6-year-old can actually do. The problem is that there's two things that are going to come up from that, both the turning of the wrist and creating a long arm angle that aren't going to help them in their delivery of the pitch.
The foot plant is a very key aspect of our pitching position. It's the foundation of which I transfer from the power from my backside into my front leg. When I land on my front leg, this leg has to be stable. What it does is it allows me to drive
with my momentum and the drive from my leg into my front leg and rotate my hips, creating my power. Okay, there's a couple things that you want to be aware of. If this knee collapses this way, where the knee is in front of the ankle, I'm going to have a reduction of power. I'm going to lose power. What you're going to see our major leaguers do is that at release, they're going to be at about 125 to 135 degree leg angle. And this leg is very, very firm. It's not moving in or out. Now, what you will see on some of our taller power pitchers is as they're delivering the ball, their knee will actually go back. Okay? Now, there's a good and bad to that. The good is you can get a little bit added more velocity, but the problem is that as this moves back, now my hips come up, raises my body level, so there's going to be a reduction or compromise in my control. Most of the pitchers who do this are high fastball pitchers, and that's a part of their game. So they will actually use this to utilize their strength. So there's three things you're going to see. One, a collapsing knee. One, a firm foundation, which is ultimately what we want. And obviously there's another one where the knee's actually going to go back. So those are the three things you want to look for. I'd like to bring in another model, Matt Perks, to help illustrate the collapsing of the front leg and how you lose a bit reduction of power when you do that. Matt, go ahead and take the rubber. What I'm going to ask him to do is go ahead and take his stride. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to have him collapse the knee, where the knee is now, you can see, in front of the ankle. Okay? He's going to go ahead and make a fist, and he's going to hit me and try to create as much power as he can to hit my hand. Go ahead, heart. Okay? Heart. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to have him, instead of collapsing the knee, I'm going to have him go back and where the knee is actually behind the foot. And I'm going to ask him to do the same thing, and then we're going to not really see it, but I'm going to ask him how he feels about that. Okay? Heart. Okay. Again, heart. Okay. Now don't, just because you saw me slap, go ahead and give me some good power there. Okay. All right. Thank you. So what do you think? What is the difference? You feel the difference between that? Okay, what happens is when you collapse this knee, your hip loses the effectiveness of the rotation aspect of it. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that that knee is always maintained behind the ankle to develop that power portion. If not, we're going to lose our power. So again, if we collapse the front leg, we lose our foundation, in which our hips are in a position where we can't fully rotate it to create that power. Next, I'm going to talk about the sequencing of the body, the sequencing of the movement of the body. The very important aspect of this is that we're going to try to create energy and use energy that's always around us, and then we're going to add to that. And while we're doing that, we're going to take how the body moves, and each additional part we're going to add to a proponent of creating energy. So by the time we release the ball, we've maximized all of our energy with the least amount of effort as we can. So let me explain this as Matt illustrates. Matt's going to get in his position, and he's going to go ahead and take his stride out. Now, one of the first muscles to fire is the calf muscle. And if he fires his calf muscle, you see how his body went forward. Okay, so the firing of the calf muscle, or really pushing away from the rubber, is going to create the lateral movement home. Okay, that's going to start my direct line and create this energy and momentum heading towards the plate. Okay, and as that's happening, he's now starting to tighten up his leg, and now you can see his hip start to rotate. So now the energy has traveled up this kinetic chain from the lower leg up to the upper leg into the hip region. Okay, now we're going to talk about how the energy transfers from the lower half into the upper half. As the hip starts to rotate, the oblique muscles in the front part of the body start to rotate alongside with it. Now the timing of that is critical. If this one fires and this one doesn't, or fires late, I'm going to lose a little bit of that energy that's adding together. If this fires too soon, it's going to bypass the energy that's being generated here. So the timing of this is actually pretty critical. Now, from pitchers, it's in a millisecond, so you won't be able to really feel it that much. So as this thing starts to rotate and the torso starts to turn, now as this is happening, it's traveling up the spine and resting inside the shoulder girdle. So what it's going to do now, as the hip turns and rotates, the weight of the ball is going to drop the hand back. It's going to force the elbow up, creating that catapult or that torque position in the shoulder. So as the energies travel from the lower half into the upper half, it finalizes into the shoulder and loads the arm so, as you will, and then as he starts to accelerate, we release that torque that's been built up starting from the lower half. All right, now we're going to talk about the final phase of the delivery, and that's the finish. Okay, what do we do after we release the ball? It's actually an important part of our delivery. So I'm going to ask Mac to get to the point of release where his body's out in front of his chest in front. Beautiful. See how he's elongated his body. His release point's way out in front of his body. Okay, this is excellent. As he releases the ball, the arm is going to turn over and is pronate, a pronation curve. Now this is actually the body's shock absorber. What happens is the arm's coming through at a very high rate of speed. If this thing goes straight, we're going to hyperextend the elbow and potentially cause some damage on the elbow and certainly some pain. So the body will naturally want to pronate. You'll notice this in all your videos. This is a very healthy position for him to be in. Okay, from this position, we're going to go ahead and follow it down, all the way down till that elbow is touching his knee. You can see now his elbow is at this point here. What this does is it allows this torso to fully rotate, taking the braking system of the body and putting it onto large muscles. You can see that his lats are really working in this position. What you're going to do is after he finishes this pitch, he's going to rotate his body, causing the larger muscles to slow the body down. And as that's happening, if we back him back to release point, you're going to notice his body is traveling downhill alongside the slope because we're throwing on a mound, so he's following the line of the slope. And then as that finishes, this back leg is going to come up and over. Okay? Again, creating this rotation in the body to get finish, allowing the larger muscles to slow the arm down, and allowing that back leg to complete that movement, keeping us in line to throwing downhill off of the slope. What this does as well is it relieves a lot of the stress on the arm post-release and allows him to keep the ball down in the strike zone more consistently. And another thing I notice is it creates more late life. What the ball does the last couple feet to the plate. Is it straight? Is it moving? Is it darting? Is it breaking? And so when you have a deeper finish, you're going to find out you're going to get a lot more late life to the pitch.